My name is Rolf. I'm from Europe, and if you're on Perl monks, you might know me as LanX. I'm one of the, unfortunately, 5,000 write-ups till now, so it's very hard not to see me there. May I ask who came for the signature talk? I'm sorry, but I had to cancel this one because I'm still recovering from a very hard flu, so I wasn't able to publish code and don't want to talk anymore about unpublished code. So I'm switching to another talk, which I gave recently in Cluj in Romania, which is about Perl. Emacs is a Perl IDE. If you're very allergic against Emacs, there's the door. And this talk was supposed to be done in 30 minutes. It was very packed in Cluj, and actually people told me that I have to smile more, so I think we can fill the extra 20 minutes when going at a slower pace. So, first of all, a little anecdote of mine. Many years ago I had a new client and arrived the first day, and they told me they have no budget for editor clients. So they were all using UltraEdit. It was a Windows group, Microsoft Windows, and they told me, well, you have to work with Notepad, and real Notepad, not Notepad++. I mean this one, the plain editor. And I said, oh no problem, I'll use Emacs, I just need to unzip it and can use the binaries on Windows, I don't need installations on. He said, what's Emacs? An editor? But I just told you we have no budget for licenses. So the problem is Emacs is not only unknown, but it's also free. And I want to make clear from the beginning, this is not a fanboy talk. I'm not going to tell you that Emacs is so much better than VI or Commodore or anything else. I just, my intention is to help those people who are using Emacs to use it in a better way. And to make it clear, Emacs is not an IDE, Emacs is an IDE construction set, which means you have plenty of possibilities because it's like using CPAN and Perl. You can, by combining different modules from CPAN, you can construct your own framework, your own world, which can look very differently from one installation to the other one. So it's an extremely flexible world with a universe of extensions, more than CPAN, because Emacs is almost twice as old as Perl. So the drawback is that bigger setups are very hard to maintain. There are many optional modules available, but far too many to be easily handled. So this talk will have three phases. The first one, what's offered right out of the box. If you have Emacs, plain installation without any extra packages, how can you use it to program Perl? What are the hidden features you maybe don't know? The second phase will be some extensions, only some, which pay off right away, which will give you an even better experience when programming with Emacs. The third one is the vision, how to go further on and how to improve your Emacs experience. May I ask who of you is an Emacs user? Okay. So, definitions of IDEs and what they are and how they are supposed to be very good vary very much. I once started on Perl monks a discussion on it, and it was because I wanted to have a rule set to define what is a good IDE or what is even an IDE, and you got plenty of different answers. Because people were looking at it at a very different perspective, and some said syntax parsing is already an IDE. If you have syntax parsing, it's not only highlighting, it can mean that you can get a list of all the variables. Do what I mean behavior, if you have code completions, if you say, oh, this variable can be completed. If you have code analysis, so you can navigate between different functions in different files. If you have automatic indentation of your code, automatic or non-automatic, if you have a kind of Perl tidying, that's why I call it tidying. If you have embedded tools, a debugger integration, for example, that you can see the debugger inside of Emacs, if you can test your regexes, if you have revision control, then error checking, this means that you run Perl-C in the background constantly to have a compilation test. Does your code compile, or do you already get during compilation errors? And other things like displaying documentation. You see, that's already a long list of features to ask for. And if you discuss with people, they come with more and more and more, and the definition of IDE varies. But you can use Emacs for, I say, for all of this. Very good way. Let's start with an example, what's out of the box. And I will show you now a lot of screenshots. Sorry. A lot of screenshots because 1 year ago I did live demonstrations in the German Perl workshop. Oh, now I disclose which part of Europe I am, but I think you already guessed by my accent. And I did a live demonstration, it was a disaster, because you want to show different features which are not compatible sometimes, or which add on and you have to change with the editor. It's a mess with the live demonstration. So you will get a lot of screenshots. I created a little film practically of 90 screenshots, so you can see all the features. And the benefit of it is you can, the slides are in PDF, you can download them, and if you're interested in special features, you can scroll back and look at it in a non-synchronical way, so slowly and how you need it. So, dynamic abbreviations is a feature in Emacs. Let's say you have here a variable called something with blah, starting with blah and auto, and you have one that is called anti, which comes later. And now you're introducing a new line and you want to expand the variable. So if you use dynamic abbreviation, it looks like this in the screenshot. You make a dynamic abbreviation, expand, it parses all the files which are related to Perl, which is done by the mood. And then it shows all expansion. Oh, what I did. Okay, didn't know this shortcut. And B is break. Okay. So you want you have this variable blah here, and you want to expand it. You wrote the first letters. You want to expand it, and then it shows you the last blah something which was in the code before. Then it shows you the next blah something if there's before no other blah. The next one, which is called, which is defined afterwards, and then it might show you another one which is in another buffer of your open Perl files, which is not only PL files, but all files which are related to Perl mood. So, right off the box, very handy and standard shortcut, as you can see. So you know how to read the slides. I always included also what's the name of the Emacs function to use it and the shortcuts you can use for it. So it's m/meta/, so escape/.
And was that shift tab you were using to get the alternative values?
Pardon?
Was that shift tab that you were using to go through the different blah options?
I defined it to be super tab.
Okay.
But unfortunately, this global tab key, I switched from, well, my client at the moment, I'm supposed to work on Windows, and using the window key is not a good thing on Windows. It works good if you have a normal keyboard and use it on the LanX because they're not putting many features on it. I could give an extra talk about an hour already about how to use sensible short keys and so on. So I defined it myself, so you can set it to whatever you want. It's not shift as far as I know, it's super. Shift must be big S, but I'm not sure anymore. I have to look it up. I don't know the whole documentation. And then I can bind it to the abbreviation expand, basically because I'm not using an American keyboard. In an American keyboard, it's quite easily to use this meta slash. In a German keyboard, it was at least 3 or 4 keys. So. Then key binding emulation. If you're working with different systems, different operating systems, different tools, you don't want to, you start to have a muscle memory with the shortkeys you want to use every time. And then Emacs, because Emacs is 40 years old, I don't know the date exactly, and more, has a lot of sensible key bindings which made sense 40 years ago, but they didn't follow the fashion that were standardized by Microsoft in later or Apple. So you have key binding emulations which you can use in a very good way. The one is a common user access, so you can use Control-C, Control-V, Control-X like you use it on Windows. And many people in the open source community, twice as many people use Vim than Emacs. And there's a very good VI emulation, Vim emulation I have to say. They are already good VI emulations, but here you can see that they are distinctly different. Evelmood, which I already tested people giving them my computer, activating Evelmood and say, look, do you know this Vim clone? And they couldn't find a difference. Then a little demonstration of Evel, or Evil, I'm not sure about the pronunciation, it's always a thing in English. If you know how it's written, it's not, you never know how it's pronounced. So let's change variable $O with $new. I'm using the VI code to change $O to $new, and it does it. So, and it combines with the other Emacs features which are Emacs specific. It's just another mood which is installed, and you can switch with the same key bindings between the different moods in VI modes. So the best mood out of the box, there are 2 moods which come out of the box to be used with Perl. This is the standard Perl mood, which is supported by the Emacs crew, and then C-Perl mood, which comes from Ilya Zakharevich. I'm not sure about the pronunciation of his last name again. He was one of the first core modules maintainers in the Perl community too. It has compilation support, it has auto-indentation, it has very good highlighting. It's the best code parsing highlighting I've seen in an editor so far. Maybe you can surprise me with the other one, but I'm always surprised what other editors cannot do with Perl. And it has very good syntax parsing. So some features of C-Perl mood are, for example, now it comes, it didn't used to be out of the box bundled with Emacs, but for 2 versions now it does. So it comes and you just have to activate it. Let's have some code with the C-Perl demo and try, for example, here. I've bounded it can show tooltips, so you can get shown what does this if mean. If I point the mouse over the if, it will show me an explanation what this code does. For beginners, it's quite nice. I've replaced the code. Normally the code is shown, the explanation is shown here in the button bar, but you can change it quite easily that it's shown as a tooltip. Then it has highlighting for parentheses. So, I dropped this. So if you put your cursor here, it will show you where the opening parentheses are, and vice versa. If you put your cursor here, it will show you that the closing one is here. It's very good if you have nested brackets. And here you can auto include parentheses. Just looking at, did I really? Yeah, I dropped this. So you can auto include parents. Maybe I couldn't do a screenshot of it. If you make an opening one, you can toggle a mood which automatically includes the closing one. And when you have auto indentation, it jumps to the right line. Let's make another code. You see the closing parents are here. and then I included another opening one, and the closing one was included automatically. Then electric semicolon, which means it's auto-inserting a new line after a semicolon and reformatted the line. Just putting a semicolon and oh, it does the indentation for me and it jumps to the next line. Then it has Emacs comes with do what I mean commands, which means I have the same shortcut which is used for commenting if I have a region active, so a selection in normal speak. That's the other thing in Emacs. Also the terminology is older. You call it in Emacs it's a region. In normally you say a selection, a mouse selection. So if you have selected a region and you use meta semicolon, it will comment it. If you select the same region again, it will uncomment it. If you use it without a region, it will jump to the command line you've defined. I've defined the column 40, and you can write your comments afterwards. If you already have a command line, it will format it to column 40. So these are quite handy features if you're including a command, and it will do it, everything you want out of the box. Then one killer feature, which is very specific to C Perl mood, is you have in Perl you have postfix statements, ifs which follow and so on. You can toggle them automatically. You go to the statement and you make a shortcut, and it will construct a postfix statement out of it. Normally it's the other way around. You wrote a postfix statement and then you realized, oh my god, I have to write more than one statement. Yeah. And then you don't have to make this happens quite often. You just put your cursor at the if and you use this statement, Ctrl-C, Ctrl-T, and it will toggle it. Then it has, I tried to scroll. Then it has RedX beautification. So if you use I don't know, you know the X modifier in RedX is that you can use white spaces and in different lines, and Ilya programmed some heuristics which does which can create out of a normal RegX a beautified one. So with and including automatically the X modifier at the end. And another feature which is not C Perl specific, but it's a very which is for me a killer feature in Emacs. Whenever I try another editor, I'm missing this feature, and so I'm forced to go back to Emacs. You can do regional undos. Let's say we're making an action. We are replacing $I with $X. So far, so good. And to show what regional undo does is I'm selecting a special region, and now when I have a selection and do an undo, it's only undoing in this region. So you've done a lot of changes in your file, and 1 hour afterwards you realize it wasn't a good idea to change this function. I want to go back to the last version. And you didn't use the revision control system constantly. So you can just go to this function, select this function, and undo this function step by step. I mean, not only complete undo, step by step, and go forwards and backwards. As long as it's selected, it's only in this region. Okay, more out of the box features. You can use FlyMake. It's an automatic syntax check, which means FlyMake mood does on the fly. It comes from also called FlySpell. There was a mood FlySpell which did autocorrection of your written not code of your written text. And they just thought, yeah, we can use it in the same way with make or compiling. So while you're typing, if you're idle or after some seconds, it will run Perl-C in the background. And if the under strict you have some errors, runtime, compile time errors, it will get a feedback to the editor at this and this line I had an error, and it will be highlighted automatically. So let's say I just have this file which I've saved and loaded again, and it has some errors. They're not highlighted at the moment. And then I just type one space, wait a second, and then it will highlight me some compilation errors I have. And Emacs will show them automatically. So after I activated this FlyMake mode, here you can see it. It will show me there are 3 errors. I can navigate between all these errors. And it says 1 here, and I can say, oh, I forgot to declare it with mine, which can happen very quickly if you just move some variables to another place in the code, and you might move it to a point before it was declared. So, and it's good if you get this instant feedback that you have a syntax error. The other one is, it shows me a typo. Here I wanted to use the pause 1, but I'd use pause L. Okay, this typo is maybe, with another font it would be funnier, but you know what I mean. So L and 1 are easily confused in other fonts, and it will show me that if I go with the mouse over the point, it will tell me what kind of error I have, one syntax error. Sorry, this is not good to make with a snippet shot, but if I was going with the mouse over here, it would show me what kind of error it is, or it would show me in the bottom bar, it would show me that pause L isn't defined. And here you can see this is a compile time thing, because begin blocks are evaluated during compile time. This warn test will create a warning, and I see here in this block I have an error, that's why this is marked. FlyMake, I knew about it for years, I didn't use it, and then I saw that a lot of Commodore users are especially using Commodore because Commodore stole this feature from Emacs and activated it right off the box. And a lot of people, I know people which are very bad at programming, Perl programming. And their way of programming is they cut and paste something they Googled, put it in, then they wait a second if Commodore is complaining about the code. Then they are correcting as long as still to the point that Commodore isn't complaining anymore. Then they run it, and if it failed, they go into the debugger. So this is a kind of, if you have low-skilled programmers, this is a kind of programming they need an IDE for. After I started to use FlyMake, I don't want to miss it anymore, because it really helps, especially if you're writing web applications and you have to test them in a browser, and you get the compile time errors instantly. Another feature which comes out of the box with Emacs is Debugger Integration, which many people don't know when they use Emacs for Perl programming. There are actually 2 commands to activate it, perldb or cperl-db, which is Ilya's version of perldb. It displays the source code and the debugger codes in 2 panes. And the positions of your tracking in the debugger are marked in the original code. So you activate it, you can see at the bottom bar how I activated it, and then you get, okay, it's a little bit small, but I had to use a reasonable font so you can read it. And you can see I'm starting to debug in the lower pane, single stepping, putting a breakpoint at this point after single stepping, and in the original code, in the buffer where I was editing, I can see where I am while I'm using the debugger. Very handy. And then I said continue, and it got the printouts were shown in the debugger, 1, 2, 3, what the code created, and I can set also from within the code with Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V, I can set breakpoints in the original code which are communicated with the debugger. Okay, those were the out-of-the-box features. Oh, smiling. Okay, my duty. So let's come to the word is continuing to turn, the world is changing. There are new features invented in other environments outside of Emacs. And because Emacs is such a big group of open source developers, similarly to VI, which are still contributing to Emacs, a lot of good ideas are ported back to Emacs. So Emacs is not only a source of ideas which are stolen, but Emacs is also very good in adapting. That's one of the features of open source. So TextMate, Macintosh editor, which is praised a lot for coding on Macintosh, which is only available on Macintosh and which requires payment, has a system called Snippets for intelligent source templates. And where it starts can trigger expansion. And this was ported back to Emacs as a package called YaSnippet. I'll give you an example. There are some snippets which come out of the box when you install YaSnippet. And I typed while, and then I do a tab. And then this while will be expanded with open parentheses and the whole while construction. But it will not only expand it, I have tab stops defined inside of this template. So I can navigate, I can type in what I want to have inside of the condition, and then I tap type, and then I'm inside of the body, and I can type code, but I can tap shift, I can type shift tab and navigate back. So I forgot to implement it. So it will jump back. So, for example, sub, same. I see now here it's automatically filled with function names, so I can see what is supposed to be typed in. It's a placeholder. I can type a function name, then I do another tab, then I'm in the variable place, then I can define my variables. And when I tap Shift tab, then I'm back at the name section and correct the name because I changed my mind. And then I can type some code. And when I tap after the last tab, I'm outside of the expansion and I'm out of it. And these templates are very customizable. They can include code and more intelligence. I can have different snippets which are triggered by the same word. So I can have a postfix if, I can have a prefix if, I can have my own templates I want to activate with if, and I can choose with them. If there are different snippets with, triggered with the same word, I get a menu to choose from. One example which was done from a Moose programmer is a snippet for has. So I want to define, I'm expanding has, then I'm calling it the attribute sex appeal, and then I can choose. I get a menu because the attributes in Moose can either read only, read write, or bear. Because only these three values are allowed, I can choose from them, and they're automatically included. So this, you see, this template system is very flexible. You can create your own snippets. Creating your own snippets is very simple. I will show you an example soon. Templates with numbered variables for tab stops. Some variable indicate mirrors. I will demonstrate you what a mirror is, because I also run dynamic code within. You can have at certain tab stops or at the initialization of your snippet, you can run Perl code or any other code which asks you for input. You can use elisp or Perl or anything as a code, and I constructed an example to show how flexible it is for creating automatic part for a subroutine. That's how this snippet looks like. It has some header code like the name, the key to trigger it, and some. I had to use some code to fix the thing with indentation. That would go too far to explain why. And you can see here, sorry, using the mouse. I forgot to bring my mouse. Sorry. So you see here the tab stops. So here's the tab stop for the name, here's the tab stop for the arguments, here's the tab stop for the return value, and here's the tab stop where you finish using the template. It will navigate back and forth between these tab stops. But not only this, it does, these are the placeholders which are shown, and these are so-called mirrors. So what does it mean? I've created this template sub and pod, which means subroutine and pod at the same time. I expand sub, and it will automatically include the pod code in front of the sub, and while I fill in the name of the subroutine, it will automatically populate the pod with the name of the subroutine. When I fill in variables, it will tell me it expects in these variables, it expects the other variables out, and then I can include my code, and then I'm out of the template. Which is very nice for demonstration. I perfectly prefer don't repeat yourself solutions, which was pointing to the other talk I was trying to give today. Sorry, next time. But you see, there are plenty of possibilities combined with the possibility to run code, recode while expanding. There are plenty of possibilities, and it's quite easy to use. So this snippet system was ported already to other editors too. It's available for Vim and so on. So TextMate created a kind of a standard of it. So you have a lot of snippets you can import. Let's talk now about another feature. So far so good. Did anyone know already about the snippet system? Or it's new for you? You knew it?
Yes.
Okay. Do you use it?
No, I keep forgetting. I used to use it on TextMate though.
Oh, TextMate. You're using TextMate?
I used to.
Oh, okay. Okay, now autocompletion. Let me just have a short look. Oh, we are good in time. Smiling pays off. Autocompletion is expansion while typing. What I showed you with the dynamic abbreviation was always triggered by a certain shortkey that I was expanding, and it has a lot of expansion possibilities in Emacs. There's hippie expand, dynamic abbreviation expand. I don't want to go into the details of all these expansion modes. Autocompletion mode means if there is something to be expanded, it will be shown automatically. So it shows a select box of possible completions. It integrates different completion sources. So I told you hippie expand, dynamic abbreviation expand. It's pluggable, so you can use your own completion sources. It can integrate YaSnippet and integrate the dynamic abbreviation expand. And I'll just show you a demo. Same example as before. You type blah, and now it shows you, after it plays excellently well, this autocompletion EL with YaSnippet and with dynamic abbreviation. It senses that both other modules are already installed, so you get a list of dynamic abbreviations which are available and of snippets which are available. And you can choose. And it will show you the anticipated expansion. And the good thing is it's customizable with this auto-completion sources. So I chose anti and I'm going on. So it detects which kind of completion is wanted. So evidently, if you're expanding a variable or you're expanding a subroutine, it's different. But Perl is parsing your code while you're typing, so it does know that that's how the highlighting works. You get another highlighting for variable, or an array variable, or a scalar variable than for a subroutine. So Perl knows already which kind of variable you are trying to expand, if it's a subroutine or not. So it doesn't make sense to expand the name of a variable when you want to type a subroutine, for example. So autocompletion itself doesn't do it yet, but there's a module I haven't tested now because it has a lot to do with the documentation. With from certain parts of the globe I'd rather prefer that they write the documentation in their own language and I can use Google Translate than to read the English. It's just there's too much information lost, but it's supposed to be a very excellent module, and it's called PL Sense, and it does exactly this. It sees that you have a function under your cursor or a file path because you're trying to make an open or a require, make an use, then it will expand modules. If you type a dollar or an add, it knows it has to be a variable. So, and these things are defined in recipes, autocompletion source, PL sense, and this is, for example, a recipe for use and require, which says you have here it's done with the RedX. It tells by the RedX that it comes, the cursor is behind a use or a require word, and then it will expand only module names, which are found in the lib path. So you see there are plenty of possibilities to expand Emacs, and I will talk in the vision part now at the end of the talk about the possibilities to expand this, because it's quite readable, even if it's in Lisp. And you get here the symbol P will tell you that what kind of expansion it is, that it's a package. So it can make working with code much easier, especially if you have this kind of programmers like the colleague I mentioned before, which is Googling for code and doing trial and error. So the last module I want to show is Imagescope browser, which was primarily written, as far as I know, for C++ and Java community using Emacs, but which plays well with Perl too. It helps you to have this visual IDE feeling, because when people are talking about IDEs, and that's a real problem when you talk generally about programming, people come with Java talk. Because Java became the kind of standard in teaching people in programming. A lot of schools, a lot of universities suppose Java to be the standard. So you always have to decipher. I don't program in C, C++, or Java, so I always have to decipher what the heck are they talking about. But these people are using, what's the standard? Eclipse. So when people are talking about IDEs, they want this Eclipse look and feel, more or less. And this is what ECP comes with. When you're using Emacs, you can create, divide your panels, your windows and frames. Another terminology thing in Emacs, the word for windows and frames are completely the opposite from what you do with the browser. The frame is the whole Windows application, and a window is a partition of it. So Emacs normally helps you to partition. You can have two files at the same time, scroll them and divide it and so on, which is very easy. What ECP does is you can divide them in Control X 2 and 3 vertically, horizontally, but these panels are not touched, they're always fixed. So this is for the compilation output. This, for example, is the function browser is here. It's only one function, I think, in this code. And then you can have different panels with directory view, with file view, with other stuff, and it's customizable. You can have different layouts in ECP, which are activated by a shortcut, and you can switch between different layouts. I personally have a layout where I have the tests I'm working at the moment, which are actively maintained while I'm working on the module, are on extra panels, and I just have a layout so I can switch to one layout and write on the test, and to one panel while I'm writing on the test, and hit F5 to run it, the test, and then I can switch back to the original code and so on. So I can have different layouts, and Emacs, which is supposed to be a very old editor, can help you there too. I won't expand too much on ECB, though I had time this time, but okay. So you have a dynamic layout management. You have automatic panels for project browser, subroutines, for the pod included, for the documentation, for directory and history view. The compilation window and the can be toggled, so you have more room. So one of the reasons why I'm using Emacs, I forgot to mention, I'm still using a netbook and try to run Commodore on a netbook. So, and Emacs can be run on as a standalone X window, but it can also do in the console. So it can work with the Xterm and TTY. So if you have a SSH connection to somewhere and you can run it there, it's no problem to use Emacs inside of a terminal. And the good thing about this old technology is because all the modules I've shown you so far also work in the terminal. So you can have a project browser like this while working via SSH in the terminal. I don't know if you can do this with Eclipse or Commodore. I doubt it. So the last module I want to show you is a very little one. It's a good demonstration what you can do with only, I think, 80 or 100 lines of code. It's called RedX tool, and it was not specifically created for the Perl community, but for the Lisp community to test regexes. But the creator automatically also included a Perl modus. So you have you activate this regex tool, and it will open a new window, so a real normal terminology X window, and you have 3 panels. The one where you include your regex, the second panel where you have your example text, and the third one with the output. I think this is the default which is created out of the box. And just to make you an example, I want to match a T followed by 3 characters, and I want to capture the 3 characters which are followed by the T, and it will show me automatically in the text I want to check that this text and match are matched. And I can see here in the last panel I can see what are the groupings which are matched. A very simple example, which is not a lot of code, but very efficient. And I can see instantly that this is not what I intended to have, because I didn't want to have this one, this match. I already included the mouse, so you know what I'm talking about. And so I can correct my regex because I wanted to have 3 characters following the T. So I have the match in this and text and not in match. So, at the beginning I was talking about the criterias, or criteria, I don't know what the plural is in English. Criteria? Criteria. How do you pronounce it?
Criteria.
Criteria, okay. Depending on the criteria, what an IDE is. Some people want this, some people want this. I showed you a lot of aspects of an IDE, and then how you can fulfill this wish in Emacs. And one of them is, for example, you have a regex tool. So, my vision for the future is, I'm very good in time, to have, I'm always thinking in phases, because I never know if I have in 1 year or 2 still time to work on a project. So I will always have a project which pays off in every phase. So the first phase for me was why my intention to do this talk is to learn much more about Emacs and to use Emacs more efficiently. And it paid off. I already have a much better environment for myself just by preparing this talk, because I was digging much deeper into ECB and Autocompletion and so on. Then the second phase was to organize the Emacs users among you, so that you can see that what is possible and what can be done. And then, in an agnostic way, 5 minutes left, in an agnostic way to have a reference module for other IDE users. This is not a Perl, Emacs conference, this is a Perl conference, but there are a lot of IDEs out there for supposedly IDEs. And the problem with, I mentioned with Java and Eclipse is always the same. You're talking with different people about the best IDE or what IDE should be done for Perl, and you're struggling with the terminology. And now we have a kind of reference model by showing this talk and so on, and say, I want to have snippets, I want to have autocompletion, I want to have panels like this, I want to have this and this too. Then we have a terminology and a reference model we can refer to. And the fourth phase of this rocket would be to have a pool of editor-agnostic Perl solutions. These snippets I showed you from TextMate are quite standardized. There's not a big step to make them, to program them in a Perl way so they can be exported at all the snippets to interfaces from Komodo, which is using a very similar interface, and Vim, which has a plugin to use it, and TextMate and so on, could have the same snippets. So we could probably create Emacs. Oh, sorry, I'm just ahead of my slides. So the first thing was to have an Emacs Perl bundle, which is, my first vision is to have something which is good for me, beginning, which is multi-platform. I want to have a bundle of standard modules like ECB and so on, which are bundled in Emacs, which can be installed right away and started from a stick, so no real installation, and which work similarly well on LanX and Win, and which are beginner-friendly, extendable, and approaching the user interface you have from IDEs like Eclipse or Komodo. And nice to have would be the Perl module, Perl package for Emacs. Well, it's practically unmaintained at the moment. It's 10,000 lines of code or so, something like this, 9,000 lines of elifs, and I understand a lot of it, but not completely. So it might be a good idea to break it up in smaller modules. And the editor-agnostic approach would be why supporting one editor only. If you have done it for Emacs, we might have modules which are generic enough, I mean CPAN modules to create snippets, and completion rules for autocompletion, which are importable for other IDEs too. So this would be, from the economic side, would attract more people and have more collaboration and expand to have a critical mass of people to drive the project further. For example, I could think about CPAN IDE modules for, let's say, namespace IDE. You have Mojolicious IDE, and in this CPAN module, you define certain snippets you need to use in your IDE, and they can be used in the reference Emacs implementation or in other IDEs which support this interface. Or you could use pod to define your TextMate snippets inside of your code. Or you could define this autocompletion rules. This is a module and so on. You could define that in Perl and use them in the code. So these are some of the ideas I have, and I'm at the end of my talk and asking for questions. Yep.
This is kind of half a question, half a suggestion. Is a long time ago, and I don't know how this guy did it, I saw something like the Eclipse view plus the debugger, so that you could actually step through, see the libraries that were involved, etc., etc., etc.
You can already use the debugger inside of the ECB Imagescope.
You can, okay.
I think so, I'm pretty sure, yes.
I'll have to go away and try that, because the way I saw that used was a big Catalyst application, and it was actually incredibly useful.
I'm just activating here. Now I'm in the part of the ECB. This is actually code of the other talk which wasn't given today. Wait a second. Started is a little bit slow because he has to activate some stuff. So this is the ECB. Okay. Wait a second, because my okay, this is the ECB view, And now we are Perl debug. No, it doesn't. But I think it's not
Too hard to do.
not really, because you can there's a variable where you can define inside of ECB which buffers have to be shown in the compilation window, which shows downside. So if I do a compilation, it will show the code downside here. So you can see he's already assigning other buffers to this. This is actually the extension I added to Emacs to have paths, which is a very small one. You can see the different buffers which are assigned to the compilation panel. And then you have to just assign the compiler buffer, the compilation buffer to the debugger buffer to the compilation panel, and then it will be shown downside. I don't think it's too hard to achieve. Sorry, I wasn't prepared for this question, but
No, that's good. Thank you.
Other questions?
One of the problems I have when doing Emacs related stuff is knowing good places to actually find help and advice. You just sort of end up Googling randomly for stuff. Have you got any suggestions on?
There's a very good article on how to start with Emacs. It says don't use Google or read the documentation. Because one of the things which is also true for Perl, which is a big problem in the Perl community, why Perl is suffering a lot, is that Perl is so mature that you have a 20-year backlog of recommendations in the internet. And the older the recommendations which were good 15 years ago have the highest ranking in the search engine. So you get recommendations which are outdated already for 10 years. And that's a problem. A lot of people start, they have quick success with copy and pasting some code they found somewhere and they don't understand it. You have this, I'm doing a live demo now, Control-H-F, describe functions. So cperl, show me, that's the way I do. So beautify RedX I showed you. Beautify regular expression. And then it will show me the documentation for it, and I can jump into the code, and it will show me the code where it's defined. So, and then you have this info file system, Control-H, Shift-F, and what will we do? Let's just say info for info. And so, sorry, it's from a netbook, so let's move this panel a little bit. And you see, Imagescope browser is also supporting, it didn't refresh, but normally it's also supporting the info. And then you have the built-in help system for Emacs. I don't know if you knew this before.
Yeah, I probably don't use it enough. But I think it's also more, there's something like Perl, I know where to go to get information and meta cpan, mailing lists, IRC and things. With Emacs, it's a bit of a mystery, and there's sort of various sort of competing plugins.
Stack Overflow is nowadays a good address.
Yeah.
Emacs Wiki exists. It's not always a good address because you have the same stuff that you have cut and pasted code, which is sometimes outdated. One of my intentions of this talk was I was not showing you a wide variety of modules. Use this, use it. This is. I want to concentrate on some very well tested modules like Autocomplete and Snippet and so on. And give me. It's hard to tell. Just give me a real world question so I can tell you, because it's quite generic.
Yeah.
Where can I get help for Emacs? What do you know that there's a package system now?
Sorry?
A package, Malpa, Alpa, you've heard about it? Emacs 24 comes with a package system, so you can, like cpan, you can install packages.
Yeah, I might have used it actually. As latest stuff broke, I upgraded to filter.
Manage Emacs packages. You can go via the module. It connects with ERPA and it shows you a wide list of packages if they're available, if they're installed or not. You can click on it and install it. But it doesn't have as many tests included like with CPAD, but it's a good beginning and it's very nice. So if you have a revision control system too that you can roll back, just test something, or in a virtual machine, you can do a lot of things. So yeah, normally read the documentation on ELIT, read the documentation on the module. Control HM gives you documentation for a module, for a mode you have installed at the moment, and that's my best suggestion I can give you. That's it. You know, if you have an open source world,
yeah, it's tricky. I think it's also because incompatibilities between different extensions. So you install one and it breaks.
Yeah, sure. That's a problem. That's why when I was creating a system, I would add a test suite in Perl to see if everything is. Another question, because I don't know where the next speaker is. Is there
It's break now.
Break.
Yeah, but after the break. Oh. Oh, yeah, it's a long break. Other questions?
That was really helpful.
Yeah, it was good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You're welcome. So I think I already linked the PDF on the ACT page of the launch Perl workshop, and there's already a video of the European Perl workshop of the YAPC. So with a bad sound, they had a problem with the micro. Maybe it was also related to me hanging the micro on a kind of tie in front of my neck. So I don't know. It says sound quality is not so good, but you can see maybe in another version of my talk again, live, and you can see in the PDFs, and it's all documented. So, thank you for coming.
Thank you.